Hey everyone, this is Truth Lies Shenanigans. I'm Neil Nix, and thank you so much for joining us. In today's show, get ready to celebrate because it's our birthday, and we are going to be bringing a couple of super fans in. All right, and of course, we'll have some hot topics. Now, I thought our host might keep it light for you guys, but we have some serious stuff to talk about. Lizzie wants to talk about the carjacking by two DC teens that took the life of an Uber Eats driver. Rob B is talking about a Capitol police officer killed by Louis Farrakhan follower. And Gianni Storm wants to tackle the challenges at our southern border. After a deep show like that, we'll bring it back to fun with some TLS trivia. Who said it? All right. Now, before we get into the show, let's meet our co-host, our professor, writer, editor, journalist out of Washington, D.C., Miss Lizzie Enders.
What's up, everyone? Happy Sunday Fun Day. Happy Easter. Happy anniversary to us. A bunch of happies today.
Yes.
A bunch of happies today. It's beautiful outside here in Washington, D.C., so I hope everyone is enjoying the day, has been enjoying the day, and has had a good holiday this morning. I know there are a lot of friends and family out there who are celebrating Easter today, so I'm hoping that you're having a good time and that you will tune in and have a good time with us as we pop all of this bubbly.
All right, and our rock star with the rock band Fallen Machine coming to you from Sudbury, Ontario, Mr. Rob B. Rock.
What's up, everyone? Happy Sunday Fun Day. Happy 1 year. Happy 100 episodes. All kinds of goodness. Here with my friends. Oh, and looks like, Neo was just glancing up towards a corner. I thought he froze for a second.
Oh, no. I'm sorry.
We lost our main dude. No,
We're good. Just trying to fix
Leave the freezing to me.
Instagram, TikTok stuff.
Leave the freezing to me.
That's true.
All right. And streaming from Atlanta, Georgia, a college student, model, actress, the co-host of Truth Lies Shenanigans Unscripted, Miss Gianni Storm.
Hey guys, I'm super excited today. I was telling Neo and the gang that I love celebrations in general. It just, I don't know, it's the spirit. It just gets me going. So I'm really excited. And happy Easter to those that celebrate Easter. Stay safe. As we see, there's a lot of craziness that we're going to dive into today. So, yeah.
All right, remind people where they can watch you on TLS Unscripted.
You can watch me and the beautiful Olivia E. on TLS Unscripted Instagram, Fridays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Awesome. All right. If you've never been to TLS before, let me tell you a bit about us. Our hosts and our guests share their truth and opinions with you, call out the lies, and point out any ridiculous shenanigans going on. And on our show, we always try to have some fun with some shenanigans of our own. The show streams live just about everywhere. You can quickly find us on YouTube. Just go to TLSshow.com or search at TLSLiveShow across all the major platforms. And you can listen to Truth Lies Shenanigans anytime on iTunes or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Alrighty, guys, it's time to party.
Love. Yes.
All right, let's bring in our super fans and the rest of our TLS crew to celebrate with us. Hey, welcome everyone. Everyone, welcome. Let's see, can we hear you guys?
Yes.
All right, good.
So.
Oh, good. Yeah, we can hear you. Good. All right. So we have our super fans, Mike Winter, Jeanette Brown. Also, I'm sure everyone knows Olivia E., our graphic artist, co-host of TLS Unscripted with Gianni Storm, and our sometimes co-host, and our Twitter guru and creator of the new TLS weekly newsletter, Jose. All right. Welcome, everybody. Woo! All right. So everyone's in their party gear, right? So I just want to go back. We're going to talk all about like what some of our favorite shows, some of our favorite moments. But real quick, I just want to go back to our original show, where it was just me and a couple of friends.
Aww.
But as you can see, we had some technical difficulties.
I'm jammed.
It's not unusual, right?
And they can't hear.
So go ahead, Jam. Start it off for us.
Yeah.
All right.
Good old
This
East
is
with
Jam.
his
We want to introduce
shower
you guys
curtain in the
to
background.
I'm looking at the shower
our first
curtain.
ever broadcast. And so we're going to do a little to introduce ourselves.
So yeah, that first show, it was not our best. That was not our best moment. It got better as the show went on.
We should point out that the first show, what was the name for the first show?
It's
'Cause
the
it
Neo.
wasn't True Life,
It was the Neo Eastern Jam show, and then we
Neo Eastern Jam
and then we
show.
brought in our wonderful Lizzie Enders, who joined the show, and of course we had to change the name. So yeah, so True Live Shenanigans came about that way. But all right, so I'm gonna just go around the horn and see. Well, how are you guys doing? Jeanette, Mike, kind of introduce yourselves. Where y'all from?
Well, where y'all from? Get some go-go in it.
Go.
Go. Go ahead. We'll start with Mike. Go ahead. Where are you from, Mike?
Well, fine. I'll go first. I'm DC born and bred. Jeanette and I are sitting in her lovely living room on Pennsylvania Avenue, down southeast, as we say in southeast.
Southeast.
And we know each other from junior high school, and then we met the top row folks at Wilson High School.
The top row folk. I love it.
Wilson.
I love it.
And Jeanette?
I moved to DC when I was 9 from the coal fields of West Virginia, where my father was a coal miner. And I arrived at Shepherd Elementary School in the 5th grade and discovered I was the only white girl, which made me stick out about as much as I stuck out as the only communist kid in rural West Virginia. So
communist kid.
Wow. Wow.
A lot of practice, not fitting in. But that's the part of what made me love being at Wilson so much, and what makes me love being part of diverse groups, and what makes me believe that diversity is what makes the world go round.
Olivia E.
We love you, girl.
Reintroduce yourself real quick.
I'm Olivia E.
Olivia.
From Heaven.
Heaven.
And-
Yeah, if you watch TLS Unscripted, Olivia E. from Heaven, Johnny Storm.
I'm actually born in Southwest Washington from Channel Square. That's where I was born. That's what my parents brought me home to. And
Right down the street from
Neo's
Lizzie,
my-
actually. Oh, and Mike.
Yes.
Hey.
And Neo's my brother, and I'm just a person from DC, living my best life, trying to figure out this earth.
And Jose.
Born and raised in Sudbury, Ontario. Fun fact, I actually met Rob B back in high school. We dated for 2 weeks back then. It was serious.
For 2 weeks.
Yeah,
2
2
weeks
weeks.
is a long
I was
time.
in grade 9 and he was in grade 12. And then some 20 years later, we meet up again. And he brought me back home as I was living near Toronto, Ontario, which a lot of people know more of. So I'm more behind the scenes doing Twitter and the newsletter. And it's been quite the learning experience for the last year. And it's an experience that I'm forever grateful for.
Oh, we've loved having you. We've
Aw,
loved
nice,
having you.
Jose.
All right.
Hey, Rob,
you, Jose.
girl.
So let's each just kind of share some of our favorite moments from the show. Let's start with Lizzie. What is some of your favorite moments?
Well, any moment where I could put you on blast, that's always a favorite.
You get that a lot. That's like every show.
But again, I think one of my favorite moments was when our former host, Z Girl, was with us, and she had her infamous tantrum.
Yeah.
That was just classic. And she had a tantrum because Neo, as he is wont to do, was cheating.
Neo does not cheat.
During the game show, and she finally got hip to it because he cheated with one of her answers, and she went full tantrum.
She did go full.
It was like a 4-year-old in the corner. She crossed her arms. And it was great. So Z, if you're watching, we love you, girl. We miss you, girl. But thank you for those shenanigans. That was great.
Iconic.
That was great.
How about you, Gianni? Some favorite moments from the show?
I would say that one that came right to mind was when it was the Halloween episode and Rob kept changing costumes. Like
that was funny.
And he had just like this plethora of different things in hand. And it's just funny because it reminds me of how the show is. It's very unexpected and it's very fun and like we really all get involved and really care. So I really like that. And then also when I finally came on and my first live show, I watched it back before we did this, and I was so awkward and so nervous. And I was like, why am I nervous? Because after I leave every live show, I feel like that, like complete, like exhilarated. So yeah, thank you guys for letting me join you.
Quick question for Rob. Rob, do you remember all of your costume changes from Halloween?
I remember. I just rewatched that episode.
It was like eight. It was like
there were half a dozen costume changes. It was just grabbing whatever was handy. I had everything ready. Just the quick changes. And Neo was definitely an accomplice because he would do the cutaways, and if I was mid wardrobe change, he would go back to that other screen. Like, nope,
Yeah.
I was going to surprise him.
Got him caught him a couple of times.
Nice.
What about you, Robbie?
We have had so many great guests, and just the ability to interact with some of the people that we've had has just been incredible. And it's been, I know for myself as a Caucasian Canadian, this has been an amazing learning opportunity.
Caucasian Canadian.
Most of my favorite moments actually happen off air, just behind the scenes, just all the prep time, all the conversations that we have getting ready, all the production talks that we have to help produce a quality product for our super fans who are joining us today, and for all of our new fans that are joining us. It has just been a wonderful growth and learning opportunity all the way around, and I've made some new friends. So I'm pretty happy about that.
My favorite part of the show is getting into it with, I know I get into it with Lizzie, but I get into it with Mike online too. He be calling me, and he calls me out a lot. He probably calls me out more than Lizzie does.
So what you don't know is that, I'm kind of the buffer between the two of you, but I'm always telling him to I'm always like, okay, don't say that. Don't say that. No.
No, it's cool. No, that's part of what the show's about. I mean, we all have opinions and thoughts. Just get them out. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to do.
Yours are just wrong. That's all.
That's fair. That's fair. So what are some of your favorite moments, Jeanette? Let's go with Jeanette first. One of your favorite moments.
So I have loved the show and tuned in as often as I can, and I love the small business spotlights. I love seeing my Shepherd classmate Robin Johnson up there as the veterinarian.
Yeah, we miss Robin. We have to get her back on.
I love Patrick, College Park Mayor. He's
a
highlight. I always tune in when Patrick's on. But my very, very favorite memory was a serious hike that Rob did about suicide and his own experience with it. And it was, I have been suicidal in my life, and it was poignant and touching and powerful, and you really helped me feel seen, and I appreciated it. It was like really one of the best things on suicide prevention that I have seen. Really impressive work.
Wow.
Does a lot. Does a lot.
Thank
Wow,
you, Rob.
that's-
Thank
Thank
No,
you so
thank
much.
you.
It's very
I'm glad that it had an impact because I try to remain as open and honest about this topic so that we can remove the stigma and we can have open conversations.
Yes.
Which I think there needs to be more of, and I can't encourage it more, but it was beautiful and powerful. Thank you.
All right, what about you, Mike?
On a completely different note, I will say that
Celebrating.
right when you first mentioned that we were going to talk about this, my favorite episode that jumped in my mind was when my building was on fire and I was forced out and I had to go to Liz's place. And I was like, I know you got the show, but here's the flames coming out of my building. So can I come over there? And
Oh
of course,
gosh.
Liz was welcoming and had cocktails, you know.
Oh, nice.
And
Again, I have
the funniest
full
thing
part
for
of it.
me was watching it live and watching Neo cheat.
Cheat.
And hearing
No, I don't cheat.
time lag live. I totally understand why Liz is always feeling aggrieved because live I can be her witness. She answers questions immediately. She is first. But by the time you see it, it's
there's-
like 5-10 seconds later.
There's that lag
so
time.
being
Yep.
behind the scenes,
But why isn't there a delay for the other people?
There is a
You're
delay.
entering
It's
time, but then
I think
why do
there
you
is
see
a
theirs
delay.
before
I
me?
think that he.
it's a matter of it all hits back at the same time. So it goes out and it hits back at the same time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Cheater.
It's about 0.8 milliseconds. It's about a 0.8 millisecond delay.
That memory that Michael described was I was texting you guys because we do we have a pre-show where we come on and we get all the technical kinks out or whatever, and I texted my co-host and I'm like, think I'm gonna be a little late. Mike Winter's building is on
remember
fire,
that.
and then
Yep.
I sent the picture. They were like, whoa, like yeah, so he's coming
remember
over.
that, yeah.
I remember all of that.
Yeah. Life is going on around us. Life is going on.
I remember him
there is
being in the background.
Yeah, in the background, acting a fool.
I remember hearing him. Yeah.
All right, Olivia E. Some of your favorite memories.
You're right on time. That's all I gotta say. You're right on time. TLS is right on time. I couldn't think of a favorite memory, but what I can think of as TLS as a whole, you're right on time. You came at the right time when we needed you, where it's a lot of us that are watching you all. Even Dad, he says TLS gives him a lot to think about every day of the week. And I agree to the same thing. You came, you conquered, and we appreciate you.
All right, love that.
Thank you.
Love that. Jose, what about you? How are you feeling?
I have to say, I think one of my favorite times is when I'm listening to the show and I'm taking down, the times and whatever someone says something funny or ridiculous. And there's times where I've heard Rob B say something and I am just in the other room and you can hear me laughing in the background later on when we're going through the video because I just start laughing with the ridiculousness that comes out sometimes. And this is what it's like to be with him 24/7. But the gents that he shares and all the amazing guests that we've had, Carlotta, Micah, Nikki, we've had so many different guests and we bring something new every week. Yeah. And I learn something new all the time. So it's not just one favorite, it's everything.
Yeah, I think my favorite episode still is the first episode just because it makes me laugh every time. I just think about how far we've come. I mean, it's just that first episode was just, man, it was a pain to even kind of just go through. We're just like, let's just make it through.
It's so much of a pain that I have not watched the full episode. I had to turn
there's no reason to. There's really no. You get the gist of it from the beginning. It's pretty much like that. All I know two people that have seen it, and that's Robbie and Kevin Thaxton's online right now. They watched the full episode that first day.
Oh
Yeah,
my God.
that was a crazy episode. I can't lie.
It's like, hey, what's Neo
I
doing?
know I've
Let's
read
check this
somewhere
out.
that if it work you've done in the past and you're not cringe, you're not doing something right.
That's right.
So you're doing something right.
That's right. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, and then my other favorite was Carlotta Walls. I think when I listened to her, she was the youngest member of the Little Rock Nine, and we had her on the show. And listening to her and her story really did impact me. I know a lot of people have been impacted by certain episodes. I think that one had the biggest impact in terms of like learning something and feeling like you can accomplish so much because of what she endured and she chose to endure.
Yes.
Was just amazing to me, and I just learned a lot. And so I think that show, that episode, I've rewatched the full episode at least 4 times already. I mean, partly because I've had to edit it, but also because I actually wanted to watch the full show. I just had it running in the background and was listening to it. It was a really good episode. I mean, she was amazing. That was
Just a bit of information about Carlotta. So I think we share the information about her book that she has out, her autobiography, A Mighty Long Way. But now she is in the process of writing a children's version of that book. So be on the lookout for that for all of your little ones out there. That should be coming out, I would think, by the end of the year. It's in the early stages. But yeah, be on the lookout for that as well.
So we have a few comments online. Jacqueline says the guests have been great. Most memorable are COVID survivor and Miss Carlotta. Kevin Thaxton says
Marcus Eason, I think he was one of our early
yeah.
COVID
Chronicles.
COVID Chronicles.
I think it was like
Yes, and he was very poignant about he had the virus. He had suffered a lot. He was on a ventilator for 15 days. He lost 3 fingers. He was in a coma. So yeah, we've had a lot of very interesting and very poignant, COVID Chronicles desk. And so yeah, I definitely have appreciated those, and I've learned a lot.
So Kevin Thaxton says Z and Jam's episode was hilarious. I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a time when we were all off. It was just the two of them. We had some things to do, and Jam was running the show with Z. It was a hilarious episode. I was watching it remotely. But yeah, it was definitely a great episode. Kevin Brown says, Elizabeth Newman, I thought your favorite time was seeing your Wilson family showing up and supporting this endeavor each week.
I mean,
They're
that's
always gonna be there.
right. Every week, so Kevin went to, Wilson with us as well. That's always a great, that's always a great thing to look into the audience or to look in the comments and see that our friends are supporting us each week.
Yeah, we do appreciate you guys.
I do appreciate that. There are some times where, I feel like I owe them more of a thank you. And so I try to reach out as often as I can to be like, thank you for participating. Thank you for tuning in. Mike Winter and I actually talk about the show a lot after the fact, like during the week. And he's constantly making suggestions. Some I listen to, most I don't.
Bama.
Will make suggestions about the show. But yeah, I appreciate this. It has just been amazing.
We really do appreciate it, especially our Wilson Tigers, the Canadian family.
Robinson is watching every week. I know Rob and Jose have their Canadian family who are tuning in each week. So it's been great. And now Neo and Olivia, your dad, is tuning in each week. So that's good. Support is always good. So we thank you all. We thank
Dr. Phil Heaton.
Or as they say right now, we appreciate you. We appreciate you.
We appreciate you. Dr. Phil Heaton's on Instagram right now. He says, "Happy birthday, fam."
Oh, nice.
Hey, Dr. Phil. Hey, Dr. Phil. Thank you.
Dr. Phil was another one of our great guests. I almost pulled a clip. I was trying to pull clips together at the last minute, and I was going to pull one from him, but it was because he's funny. He's definitely funny. But yeah,
I do want to say that. Can I say one thing?
Please.
That Neo Lizzie, Robbie, Gianni Storm. You all are inspiration to us too. Like, we look at you guys. I love who you guys are. I'm a viewer, just like Mike and Jeanette. You know, we love you guys. We love your insight. And it's so fun having banter with Jeanette and Mike too as well. Because I have banter with you all.
in the comments, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it brings some. We're all still in a pandemic. The pandemic hasn't changed. Some of y'all got the vaccination, some of y'all haven't. But at the end of the day, we're still in a pandemic. We love you all. I love Mike. I love Jeanette. I love Dad. I love everybody that's listening, and I love you all that are, you know, Neo, Lizzie. You all. I mean, I'm going. Dad's texting me what homicide means. You know,
He's into the show.
he's trying to find what the definition of homicide is. I mean, gives us things to look forward to because we can't go out in the real world.
Yeah.
And I appreciate y'all for that.
All right, well,
Thank you. As far as vaccination go, I get my second shot on Tuesday.
Yay.
So I'll be fully vaccinated after that. I think Mike Winter gets his second shot the following week. So even though he's probably been the only person that I've seen consistently throughout the pandemic, and that's because he lives around the corner. I've seen Jeanette a couple of times. Actually, Jeanette came over and spent Thanksgiving with us.
Yay.
And so she's just, moved back to DC. And so we, welcomed her back, and she and Michael spend a lot of time together, but it'll be very refreshing and invigorating to be able to kind of open up a little bit more, because I'm not lying.
You're actually going to go out? You're actually
That's a good question.
I'm not lying when I say I have been quarantine queen, and I have not really gone anywhere. My hair and my nails are proof. But hopefully I will be able to kind of get over the hump and psychologically, get out there, because I do miss seeing people. I do miss seeing DC, and hopefully this double dose of the vaccine shot will give me some comfort and some confidence.
Yeah, same here. I'm looking forward to mine. So I have a shot coming up soon. All right. So before we let you guys go, it's time for us to say, let's go ahead and sing some happy birthday. Let's get it in. Celebrate real quick. I got the cheesy happy birthday song. Let's do it.
Do it.
Okay. I'm not actually singing. I got my cake. I got my cake. Woo. Happy birthday, guys. 1 year old. 1 year old.
That cake looks like a lot of diabetes.
Yeah, well, I'm not eating it all. I'm just going.
I got my bottle.
I'm doing peanuts.
Is that really?
Yeah. I couldn't find a vegan cake in time, so I'm doing peanuts.
All right, one last thing before we go. So Olivia. So did you want to tell everyone who won, Olivia and Gianni? Who's the pet shenanigans of the week?
Oh, our lazy, rainy dog. And I don't know his name, but I know he's lazy.
Oh, that's Reese. That's Reese. That's my friends Chris and Vanessa's dog.
Congratulations, Chris and Vanessa! Yay!
And that looks like what used to be Chris's couch.
Well, that was awesome. So, Jeanette, Mike, we appreciate you guys so much. Look forward to continuing to kind of banter with you guys online. And so it'll be fun.
Come on, go Lizzie.
Returning to dragging you.
No problem. I can take it.
Go across the street to New York Pizza and get me a shrimp basket, please.
Mama, no.
Order food.
Delicious. I'm having shrimp tonight too.
All right, guys. So we got to shut down. I will talk to you guys later. We appreciate you. Thank you, Mike and Jeanette.
Wait,
Olivia, Rob. Okay, blow your candle out. Make a wish. Go ahead.
Make a wish, everyone, or whatever you're doing. Make a wish.
Go ahead. We're making a wish. Go ahead. Okay.
Here for
All right, we all blew it out.
in
New
2021.
Chanel.
A new Chanel in 2021.
No, you're not supposed to say the wig.
All right, guys. We got to get on. We got to get on. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time. We appreciate you. Bye, Jose, Olivia.
Bye,
see you
guys.
later.
Thank you.
All right. That was so much fun, guys. So much fun.
Very
Okay, I'm going to take
cute.
my hat off now. Taking my hat
It's getting
off.
warm, is it?
I think Tomorrow's gonna give me a
Yeah, a little
shrimp basket. I really want a shrimp basket.
warm. Now I want to take my
Yeah,
sweatshirt
you
off
sounded
too.
serious about that.
I was. It's like right across the street from Jeanette. It's directly across the street from where Jeanette is right now.
Good little shrimp
You
basket.
should
All right.
get it. You should get it.
So we're gonna have to get into our hot topics again. We appreciate our crew for joining us. All right, let's get into it.
Truth, lies, shenanigans.
All right. The way Hot Topics works is our hosts bring you hot topics they want to share. We'll ask, is it truth, lies, or shenanigans? And our panel will talk about it for a bit until time is up. Just for Lizzie, we brought back
Oh,
Genji.
Gingy's back. Go, Gingy.
Thank you. What's
Go,
up, girl?
Gingy.
Go,
Go,
Gingy.
Gingy.
And then we'll go to our audience for comments and questions. So make sure you're commenting in any of our commenting threads. You're listening. All right, since we're coming off some fun partying, I'm going to save the more graphic discussions for last. So, Gianni Storm, you wanted to talk about the southern border. Is this truth, lies, or is this shenanigans?
Both truth and some shenanigans happening. The LA Times posted an article that explains there's a large backlog of asylum cases from unaccompanied children at the US border. So nearly 300,000 children still have cases pending from 2014. The Border Patrol has 5,381 migrant youth in custody, and 13,359 more were in federal shelters as of this past Thursday. The increase in youth has overwhelmed the Border Patrol, which faces shortages of buses, holding area, and beds. With 500 or more unaccompanied children arriving in the United States every day, and only 500 shelter beds available. So the Biden administration is struggling to provide, safe housing and food for the children that are staying there, as well as swiftly releasing the children to their family members. So many of the people are attempting. The reason why there's so many people that are actually trying to cross the border is it ranges from they have no choice but to flee their homes. A lot of the women are escaping like gender-based violence. The LGBT plus community in different areas are facing violence, and they're fleeing from persecution. And then children are also facing like gang violence and things like that. So that's why they're fleeing. So yeah, that's what's happening right now at our U.S. border. It's kind of really sad. If you guys want to check it out, like I said, it's the LA Times article, and you should definitely see the pictures to give you more of a concept of what's actually going on, because these are just numbers and it sounds crazy. But yeah, so my question to the panel is, what do you guys think they should do? What do you think should the Biden administration, if you can offer President Biden some advice right now, how should he handle it? I know we're not experts, but
Sure we are. Robbie Rock?
Yeah, that's a complex issue, Johnny, because I mean the root issues stem in their home countries. When I read the article that you shared with us to set up the story, what I found heartbreaking was that a 10-year-old child undertook a 1,450-mile trek for the promise of something better. And there's no promise, it's just the idea of something better. And this kid at age 10 basically just lumped into larger packs of kids, blended himself into different families. And now it's turning into a humanitarian crisis at the border. I think it's going to require, instead of building these amazing wall partitions section by section, I think those same building materials or the same financial investment could be used to develop temporary shelters, some triage centers, because unfortunately these kids are stuck at the border, and to refuse them is unconscionable. So you need a mechanism by which you can integrate them safely and responsibly into American society. And if the US isn't the correct fit for their immigration needs, then work with other countries so that they can be displaced to a first world country that would benefit them, because that's what they've left their home base because of a lack of opportunity, for fear. So I think that the developed world, the developed nations can absolutely take care of these people, and it would be an international effort more than just a UA's best effort.
Lizzie?
Like
No, Gianni, were you saying something before I start?
no, I was just saying that I like Rob's perspective. That was good advice.
One, I'm going to call out the Mexican government, because obviously this, like Rob alluded to, this is a situation that has started, that was birthed in Mexico. And it seems that there is some type of depraved indifference with the Mexican government, with officials there, in terms of taking care of its own, and just, relying on the fact that, okay, we have this border. It's not that open, but it's not closed either. So we have this border where people can just go and they can automatically get asylum, or they're no longer our problem. So let them go. They can go over there and they can be the problem of the United States of America. So I think the Mexican government really needs to, like, why is the expectation that our government is going to care more than the Mexican government? So the president of Mexico, the government officials in Mexico need to get serious about this as well, because these are their people. These are their people. And if we don't
And Honduras was a popular one too. Honduras.
Well,
but there's a problem with Mexico, because Mexico has similar issues to the places they're leaving. So they're going from one fire to another. And so that's why they're looking to come into the United States.
Exactly, but they're going through Mexico. And so why isn't Mexico addressing that? That's my point.
I mean, what can they do?
What can we do? We can't.
There's a lot we can do. But what can Mexico do?
But we're not. If you think about what's happening here in this country, we're not even taking care of our own homeless, our own displaced. Like, I walk, you go to certain areas of DC and it looks like a third world country.
Yep.
And so I'm not saying that we should turn them away. Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. But I think we have to be realistic here. Like, we are being asked to take on this huge burden when we haven't even fixed stuff in our own house yet. And where the countries that these people are coming from aren't doing anything to address the issues there. And you're right, Gianni. It's not just I misspoke when I alluded to the fact that these were just Mexican, citizens coming here. It's a lot of citizens from Latin America.
Yes.
However, those countries are not addressing these issues and are expecting us to be the savior, and that's not fair to us at all. Especially when we can't even, or we won't even, save our own people. So if we're going to, talk about what can be done, we need to have a full conversation with all countries and their governments involved. Like, don't just put this on us, because I guarantee you, what are they going to do if a whole bunch of Americans start flooding their borders? Yeah. You think that they're going to be as nice or as welcoming?
In order for that to work, Liz, the U.S. needs to play. But the U.S. needs to be playing it both ways, because during the Syrian crisis, Trump's administration was turning away Syrians, did not want anything to do with it.
We're going to have to consider Trump a blip. I'm sorry.
No. But at that point, it was just American policy. So, I mean, if it has to be carefully managed both ways, you have to be able to take them in, and but it's an international effort again. You need to be able to take in some from other parts of the world and divest it so that everyone has equal opportunity.
I agree, but also we need to take into consideration that this administration just took over. Like we're dealing with a new administration, dealing with a new mindset, a new policy. Like I think, when Biden took office, everyone just assumed that all of these problems were going to be fixed overnight, and they're not. And so honestly, I don't even think he really realized when he came how bad and urgent the situation is.
I agree.
But I get kind of annoyed when all of the burden is put on us.
So
because I think other people need to step up too. Like we don't have the capability to be the only country over here that is taking on all of this.
So the crisis
Everyone else needs to do their part. Everyone needs to do their part.
I agree with you. The crisis we have right now happened because of Trump. I mean, because there was a large number of people that avoided coming to the border because of Trump. And so when Trump came out, all of a sudden people were like, let's go. So they've been sitting around waiting in Mexico, waiting in other countries, waiting to come up. Now, the problem's been there for a long time.
That's not altogether true. There's been issues with the border for years.
Oh yeah. No. I'm not saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying there wasn't an issue with the border. What I'm saying is
that's what you just said.
no. What I've said was the sudden increase. Like when we're talking about, all of a sudden they just started jamming the borders because they've been waiting. Is what I'm saying. So we're seeing more migrants than we've seen in the last 3 years or so because they knew there was a time when, because Trump was so hard on the borders that they were, you know, separating people, killing some people, not killing them, but allowing them to die. So what I'm saying is the massive, in the last 3 months or 4 months that he's been in office.
The problem has exacerbated, yes, but there was still always a problem.
I'm not saying there isn't. I never stated there wasn't.
I'm saying that's my point. There's still
I get
always
that
a
point.
problem that was never addressed.
No, I get that point. I was making a different point. I was saying that the sudden surge has to do with Trump. That's what I'm saying. I wasn't countering your point. But to that,
it's been
your
backlogged
point,
since he's been in office.
I agree that there needs to be some type of cooperation. And I actually loved the concept that Biden was considering of sending a lot of the migrants to the border states of Canada. That doesn't mean that he's sending them to Canada, but he's creating a situation where Canada could possibly take in some of these migrants. And I like that idea. I wish Canada would step up and just say, hey, we'll take some of your migrants and call it a day. But if that's not going to be the case, I would like to see some of these border, because there is a problem when a large number of people suddenly come into an area at the border. It does put pressure on resources. We're talking about hospitals, when we're talking about fire, police, etc. It does put a pressure on that because you're expecting a certain, you're budgeting for a certain number of people, certain community, and then all of a sudden when a bunch of people come, it puts a lot of pressure. So it would help to alleviate the pressure to spread out and send some of the migrants to some other places, and we should have a better tracking system for sure.
Jeanette Brown shared a comment that actually kind of encapsulates what you were saying. It's fluid dynamics. So there was a bottleneck that was created with Trump and border closures, and it created a huge backup. So now that you have someone who's less tyrannical, less emotional in office, someone who's a little bit more lucid and logical, then people feel safer making that challenge for the border to gain entry because of the different political climate.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Rob. Do you think the Canadian option is, I just don't see that as, I think maybe Canada should help, but the reason why they're coming to across the border and mainly staying in the southern states, mainly staying in the Gulf states, is because of access. How are these people going to get to Canada?
Oh, they were going to fly them. They will put
Well,
them in
that's what
planes.
Neil was saying.
Biden administration
If
suggested
Biden
that.
is moving them to northern border states, then that creates at least an
Like,
For
environment
processing.
of,
How
for process and possibly immigrating further north. Because if the opportunity isn't there, then if we make it a little bit easier as far as a North American coalition, if you will, then I think that we have the resources and the infrastructure available to help many of these people come and become contributing members of our societies.
I think in a perfect world that would be a great option, but we can't even keep track of the people that are staying in the Gulf
Mhm.
states.
Yeah, that's why I said that's
I
what
think
I
that
said.
I think that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to slip by the wayside. There are going to be a lot of children that are lost, which is already happening. And
Yeah.
so to think that we, would have the wherewithal to safely get a bunch of people consistently to Canada, I don't trust our government to be, ready for that yet at all.
All right, let's get to
Um,
these comments real
maybe
quick.
down the road, but I don't
And a lot
see
of
that at all
people from
because
Latin American countries don't go too much further because of the language barrier also, because their first language is Spanish and they stay in Spanish speaking communities in areas where they can communicate. And until they actually pick up English as a second language, then it does put them at a disadvantage.
are there Spanish speaking communities, like big Spanish speaking community, large Spanish speaking communities in cities in Canada?
Uh, we're a melting pot. I do know a fair amount of people who do speak Spanish, and that's even just in my northern town. It's I would imagine that once we get into metropolitan centers, that it wouldn't be very difficult because there are a lot of Spanish-speaking nationalities out there.
Are there areas though that like there are certain cities in the
Like
United States, even
communities.
certain parts of
Yeah.
DC where you go where you won't hear English at all, where all of the advertising and business is in
It's
Spanish
Spanish.
language, especially in Miami, especially in parts of Texas. Like, are there places like that
Sure.
in parts of Canada where these people would
Oh,
feel comfortable?
I didn't research it, but I'm sure that there are because I mean we have Little Italy, we have Little China, we have these areas. So I know London, Ontario, when I was living there, had a strong Portuguese population. So I'm sure that in different communities, that's how it sets up. I know Sudbury has a strong Greek population because the families come and set up, and then it becomes just a base for the rest of them to come and migrate to. So, but to say that I've known a little Spain, a little Madrid, no, I haven't encountered that in Canada yet.
Another thing that I think makes this more difficult, obviously, is the pandemic. Because how are we treating these people and trying to keep them safe from the coronavirus? Are we making the vaccines available to them? Which, politicians are going to say no, they're lucky just to be here. So that's another caveat to the situation is, how are we going to provide for these people so that they are protected medically, that their health is protected, so that they are able to travel to Canada? Because, I mean, again, Canada won't even let Americans in at this point
Yeah, and
still.
Canada's not letting anybody in
So,
right now, but I mean,
so
it would have to be a long-term solution, I would think. It wouldn't have. I don't think there's a quick
definitely.
fix, but it would definitely be a nice long-term solution. There's a bunch of comments online. Mike Winter says, "Oh my God, I actually agree with something Neo said. Rare."
A broke clock is
Rare
right
moment.
twice a day. A broken clock is right twice a day.
Jacqueline Robinson says, "Unfortunately, there is a caste system in Mexico based on skin color and class." Um, Ephraim says, "This is a worldwide problem in developing countries. People live in rural areas and cities are overpopulated. Solution is to create employment." Uh, Daria Winner had a thread going. She said, there must be an international solution through the UN. We still have to deal with
Yes,
DACA. Dropping children over the border or wall is not a solution. How are
Yeah.
the children going to become contributing members of society? We cannot play
and
chess with little children.
the UN situation. The problem with the UN is that we just came out of an administration that had absolutely no respect for the UN at all. And so now we have to go back and try to build up that relationship, build the trust again.
So one last comment. Jeanette Brown says, in some ways, parts of French-speaking Canada could be easier to assimilate into for Spanish speakers.
They are Latin-based tongues. There are some similarities, so I can absolutely appreciate where it would be easier to assimilate if you have those root words to use as a base to become part of that fabric.
Gianni, before we shut this down, did you have any more comments on that?
No, I think that you guys covered it pretty well. There, like Lizzie said, in a perfect world, things could happen streamlined or just smoother. But I propose a different solution. I think that maybe there can be like refugee camps in those countries, like in Honduras. I know that's kind of like, well, why would they're leaving the country? Well, maybe it's a different part of the country, and there's like maybe some type of United Nation base where these kids can come and be a refuge in their own country, and then I don't know, until their government gets things worked out, where they don't have to actually cross the border and be into different places. They can maybe stay with their families there. But that's an idealistic
Now, I just want to say, I know I haven't researched this, so don't take this as gospel, but I've heard that the U.S. Gives a lot of money to many of these countries to try to handle their situation locally. But of course, there's a lot of corruption in many of these countries.
I was
So
going to
the
say,
money
we're
doesn't
talking
go
about corrupt governments.
right.
We're talking about corrupt governments.
So a
So
lot of the money
the
doesn't
people in
go to
need
them.
don't really see that money.
Yep.
I think a good example would be Brazil. When Brazil had the Olympics in Rio a few years ago, you know, Brazil has a very large population that's living below the poverty line, below the poverty level. And the government there isn't really taking any steps to fix that situation. However, when the Olympics came, what they did was they just swept all of those people to the side. They hid them.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it made it look
Remember
like,
that.
you know,
It was
Brazil was this nice, happy place. And so I think that's what happens in a lot of these countries. You just talk, and we do that here. I'm not just going to call these countries out as we do that
we do.
here.
We
We,
do.
sweep the people off the street, and keep it moving. So again, I think these politicians need to get really serious. These are human lives we're talking about. And everyone needs to get really serious about what we are going to do, because America can't be the only country
It needs to be.
that is acting on this. And even if we bring Canada in, we can't be the only two countries that are acting on this.
Agree.
Truth, lies, shenanigans.
All right, Lizzie. You've got a sad story about a carjacking just down the street from you. Is this truth, lies, or shenanigans?
When this happened, it's been almost 2 weeks now. And they said it was by Nationals Park, which is the ballpark where the local MLB baseball team plays. I was like, what? I always think in my neighborhood that I can hear everything. And so I'm like, what? I'm looking out the window, like I didn't hear anything. But this was a very, very, very sad story. So to give, a point of reference, a little background here, DC has, in the past, I would say 5 or 6 months, but particularly in 2021, DC has seen a dramatic increase in carjackings in the city, particularly in which the perpetrators are teenagers. And so this was a situation where two teenage girls, one 13, one 15, one who is from Washington, D.C., one who is from Fort Washington, Maryland, left their homes, decided that they were going to carjack someone that day. They had tasers in hand, and they came into contact with a 66-year-old Uber Eats driver by the name of Muhammad Anwar, right? And they got into the back of his car. They got into his car initially, and then they overtook him, overpowered him. So somehow he ended up as a passenger in the car. And they drove for a little bit, and then no, he was in the back seat at some point. And
No,
then
he
they
was in the
drove.
driver's seat.
Prior to. prior to the.
Yeah, no, he ended up in the driver's seat, and when they couldn't physically remove him, they tased him, and that's why he was unable to get out of the vehicle. They gunned it while he was still in the driver's seat.
No,
But she's saying beforehand, before that.
Before that, Rob, if you look at some of the other video before that, he's in the back seat. And then, but you're right, they did tase him at some point. So they did assault this man. And then he, at some point, was outside of the car. They were parked, but they were arguing. There was a confrontation, and he's trying to regain control of the car. You see, and we'll play the video, but you see the verbal exchange between the young ladies, and it was actually the 13-year-old who was driving the car. The 13-year-old who is alleged to have committed a carjacking back in January. So this wasn't her first time at the rodeo, okay? They, after arguing with him back and forth, you can hear her revving the car in the video, and then she steps on they said the 15-year-old switched the gear, and then the 13-year-old stepped on the gas, and that's when the car takes off with him still on the side. With him still hanging on the side. They hit a bunch of things, and then they crash at the end of the block. So, Neo, you want to show the video? Viewer discretion is advised for this video.
Oh, heck yes. This is graphic.
We've blurred as much as we can, but it's still pretty graphic.
It's very graphic.
They're teams. What's going on? This is my car. Inside is his car. Yeah, he is their car. No, this is my car. Shut it! Oh my God, somebody just stole it. She's stealing their car. You're stealing the car? Yeah, we called the cops. Call the cops. Call the cops. It's been called. It's been called. It's been called. It's been called. They stole the car. These girls stole the car.
Oh my God, it's lit.
Hey, they stole the car. They stole the car.
It's while he was hanging up the side of the door.
He's under the car?
No.
No, he's right there.
Yeah, he's right there. He's been propelled from the car, but.
Everybody, I need you to step back from the scene. I saw what happened. Oh, no. I need everybody to step back.
So I'm not sure if you guys were able to hear or decipher what was going on once the car crashed, but there were randomly a lot of National Guard in the area on the scene. So they were the ones who were able to actually stop the young ladies from running. They pulled them from the car and they apprehended them until the police officers, law enforcement got there and were able to handle the situation. But the young lady in pink, when she got out of the car, the first thing she says to the National Guard and to her friend is, "Where's my phone? My phone is still in there," meaning her phone is still in the car.
That's what
paid no attention to this poor man who was on the ground dying for no reason. She was more concerned about her phone. And so this story was in the headlines for almost every day here in the city. And like I said, we've had a rash of carjackings. I think the carjacking number per last week was over 100, the number of carjackings in the city for the year last week, whereas the same time last year, it was 22. So there's something going on. My question to you guys, my panel is, so it came out this week that prosecution has decided or is contemplating offering a plea deal to these young ladies. Now, the 13-year-old, by DC law, she cannot be tried as an adult. She will be tried as a juvenile. She's 13. The prosecution had decided that they were not going to try the 15-year-old as an adult. However, they are thinking about offering a plea deal this week. So my question to you all, what do you feel about that? What do you feel about a plea deal for these young ladies? And again, they are 13 and 15. But on the flip side, an innocent man lost his life for nothing. For nothing.
Can we start with
Let's
Johnny
start with
Storm? Because this is the first time she's actually seeing the video.
I keep in mind their age. However, they are bold enough to rob a grown man for his car. So I don't feel like I feel like they should be tried as adults. I feel like they should. I know that's harsh, but I feel like, especially Liz, you mentioned that the 13-year-old is the one that has a past of carjacking. I would like to know a little bit more about their past. But I feel torn because I'm always the one on the panel that's like, no, the least jail time, the least. But I feel like that was what I just saw was absolutely disgusting. And then you have to understand the details surrounding the case. Like, she got out of the car, was asking for her phone. They didn't care, basically. So try them as adults.
What do you think?
It's really at my condolences to the Anwar family. I can't imagine. Just it's such a senseless loss. But because we're dealing with a repeat offender, we're dealing with something that was premeditated. We're dealing with an assault with a taser. Everything. These are not a child's actions, and as such, I don't think that they should be viewed as children, because this is an adult crime. This is a senseless loss of life, and that's it. Why did they do it? For a thrill? For whatever reason? For transportation? I mean, at worst, they needed a ride somewhere and had no cash, but it still doesn't excuse the crime.
So, Rob, let me just interject there very quickly, because there is a belief in the city that there is a carjacking ring going around between DC, Maryland, and Virginia that is being led by adults, and that they're picking teenagers to commit these crimes because they know teenagers won't get a lot of time. And I'm not saying that to absolve anyone of anything. I'm just saying that's what's being put out there, that it's actually a bunch of adults that's running this. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I can understand why it's happening more, because I mean, we're a year into the pandemic. A lot of people are hurting financially, and a lot of people are hurting psychologically. So to get somebody on board with risky behavior would be easier at this point than it was a year ago. People are broke, so to motivate them, to engage them in criminal activity would be easier than it was a year ago. So I do understand the increase in the numbers, but this, yeah, just the way that this went down was absolutely horrible. And I think that unfortunately, these poor young girls need to face the consequences of their actions, and there needs to be an example set for the rest of society that this won't be tolerated.
So my thoughts are, of course, you know how I am with kids. I'm partial to kids because,
We're all partial to kids.
well, I'm more of an advocate for kids in the sense that I don't think that they should be treated as adults. I think certainly the adults related to the crime, if there are, need to be uh, the ones that need to be accounted for. But children, I remember when I was 13 and 15, I was just trying to figure out what life was. I mean, and if someone, just like uh, people who are in gangs or drugs or selling drugs, you know, they are manipulated because they don't understand the consequences of their actions. They don't understand the potential consequences of their actions fully. In part, they do. I mean, they're old enough to at least understand right from wrong. But, if you're doing a carjacking with a stun gun, a child, a 13, 15-year-old, doesn't think through the process well enough, especially if they've done it before. They don't think through it well enough to think, okay, I could find myself in a situation where the person's going to fight me, where he's going to be hanging out the car, where I might accidentally put it into gear while I'm revving it up, and I might cause an accident and might kill him. Those thoughts that reasoning does not go through a child's mind the way it would through our mind as adults.
Yep.
It just doesn't happen. So, do they understand the consequences? A bit, but not fully, not as an adult would understand the consequences. So I don't know that I don't know about plea deal. It depends on what the plea deal is. Um, I might consider a plea deal, considering the full situation. If I've met the girls and I felt that they were in a situation where maybe, like you said, they were in a carjacking ring or something like that, I might consider a plea deal for them, especially in exchange for information about those adults. So I don't know. That's where I stand. At least try them as juveniles and maybe a plea deal.
I
Lizzie?
wanted to add also, I have a sister. I'm sorry, Liz, really quick. I have a little sister who's 14 years old. And I was just putting myself in a situation like if my sister did something with one of her friends, how would I take it? Would I want people to have mercy on her, or would I want her to be tried as an adult? And I feel like I still would want her to have some repercussions. But I don't know. I feel still.
But even
I
if she's
still
your
feel biased
sister,
because they're
Johnny, if your
little.
sister was a repeat offender, if your sister had these violent tendencies, then you might be turning to the system and saying, okay, you know what? She needs some tough
I
love
don't know
now.
that she had violent tendencies. I mean,
Someone who uses a
carjacking with a
taser
stun gun
against
is
someone else. I don't know, man.
She's
A stun
13
gun
and
can
she's
a stun
had
gun
2
can kill
carjacks.
you, Leo.
it
A
can.
stun gun can
I'm
a
not saying
stun
it
gun
can't.
is a
Can.
weapon.
But
First of all, they
how,
had no right to have the stun gun.
how many
They had no
13-year-olds
right to.
recognize or realize that?
That's not my problem as a victim. That's not my problem. They had a stun gun. They had no right to have a stun gun. They had no legal right to be driving a car. They're not eligible to get a
Yeah,
license,
stun guns are
which is
illegal in DC.
why the young lady couldn't drive straight down the street.
Yeah.
They also certainly didn't have a legal right to rob someone. So as where a lot of people, and I understand that these are young people.
Yeah,
But
very.
when I walk out of the house every day, I have a right to be safe. This Uber driver had a right. He was an Uber Eats driver, so he was delivering food. He has a
Yeah.
right to make his delivery and not worry about something like this. And so I'm not even gonna get into whether they should be tried as adults. Because per the statute, the 13-year-old cannot be, and for whatever
And
reason, the
should not.
prosecution thinks that the 15-year-old won't be. But what's the point in a plea deal? If she's
How do you feel
13
in the plea?
and under the statute, she will be in jail without a plea deal. She would be in some type of remand up until
Rehabilitation
she's
facility.
18. So then what's the point of a plea deal? That means she's getting a slap on the wrist because she was the one who was driving, who put her foot on the gas. That means she's getting a slap on the wrist for killing someone.
Do we know the actual plea deal? What
No, because it hasn't
They
been
haven't
offered
announced
yet.
it.
The prosecution just said that they are considering it and that they will be talking to the young lady's lawyers this week. And my position is, okay, no, let's not try them as adults, even though, you don't have Lizzie with the gavel, but let's not try them as adults, but at least give them the full punishment under the law for juveniles. Let's stop treating these
Fair enough.
acts with kid gloves. Because this is why, this is why
It's a serious
these
crime you
adults,
need to pay for.
and this is why these adults keep getting these kids to do crimes, because they know they won't do any time.
Taking advantage.
But also, this is why a lot of these kids think, well, I don't care.
This
I
is a
don't
tough
care.
one. This is a tough.
It
It is very tough. Yeah.
And I let me just say, just to end this, I moved back to DC 2 weeks or 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago, from living in New York for 21 years. I was completely shocked when I moved back down here about the level of aggressiveness with a lot of teens in this city. I've seen it on the subway. I've seen it walking down the street. I've had to check myself for not, getting in a fight
DC
with
teens
some
have been
young
kind of aggressive over the years. I remember growing up in DC.
But this is nothing that
Yeah,
I grew
DC's
up in
always
DC.
been tough.
I never experienced this growing up in DC. Now, granted, I left when I was 18,
You
but
were hanging
as
around
an
some good
adult,
people then. Because I did.
I like to think I was hanging around average people. Like, not all DC
Okay,
is.
well, I was hanging around the people you talking about because I know I know a
But
bunch of
that's not.
people that are
But that's
talking
not
about
the
just like you
average.
talking.
But you
Maybe
were
that is true, like in
you
regards
were
to
a
the
DC
generation.
teen. You were a DC teen. Were you acting like that?
I wasn't. No, me personally, obviously.
So that's what I'm saying. This isn't the average person in
Average?
DC.
No, of course not. It's not the average person
That,
today.
that's what I said. So I was shocked to to witness the level of aggression that's going on in DC with these teens. And like I said, the number is now over 100 carjackings versus 22 for last year. And so I think whatever the statute is, we need to stick to that.
We're getting tight on
We need to stick to that.
All right. Kevin Thaxton says no deal. Jose says no deal. They were old enough to steal a car and kill a man. Throw the books at these kids. Kalai says a repeat offender shouldn't be given a plea deal. Daria Winter says, remember stealing cars by 7, 8, and 9-year-olds in Kenilworth about 10 years ago, so the kids' legs couldn't even reach the pedals. And she also says, you must understand the need for juvenile laws. She says, as a former appointed leader in the DC Juvenile Justice Advisory Group, juveniles must not be charged as adults.
But that's not what we're talking about here. Like, I'm not talking about charging anyone as an adult. I'm talking about sticking to the juvenile laws and not offering them any extra protections. That's what
Oh
I'm
no,
talking
but you weren't the only one who said. You weren't the only one who.
Yeah, I said it.
Rob B and Gianni said that they think they should. Yeah, I don't think she was referring to you.
Now, if we want to talk, if I was the head mofo in charge, then yeah, I would probably be on the side of, Rob B and a little bit of what Gianni was saying, even though she's vacillating a little bit, which is totally understandable.
Yeah,
these are not easy issues, but
yes,
I mean, I'm still vacillating.
I got into a verbal confrontation. I've gotten to a couple of verbal confrontations with teens since I've been back here. And I've had to, check myself. But also I'm looking at them like, are you serious right now? You are really talking to an adult this way? Really?
DC
okay.
Kids.
All right.
Ernest Cooper says, don't try a child as an adult. Sherry Blaine Priest says, I struggle with this one, Lizzie, and it seems so many children these days are involved with adult crime. Ernest Cooper suggests you should make harsher penalties for children in cases like this rather than trying them as adults. And Kevin Thaxton asks parents, where are their parents? Ephraim says they should be tried as an adult because the crime is serious. Mike Wolf, one more. Mike Wolf.
It's likely that there are no parents involved in the situation. I mean, we don't know who they were staying with. That's another. It's likely that there is no consistent parent involved in their lives.
And that's what Paulette Bertrand says. Big part of the problem is many parents were not able to fit that role.
Because even though we're in a pandemic, school was in session that day. School was in session that day. These young people should have been in school, either at home or in the classroom. So it's likely that there is no parent, unfortunately.
Mike Wolf says, I want to know more about these kids' family situation. Also, not dealing with them as adults doesn't mean not dealing with them at all. All right. Great hot topic, Lizzie. All right, let's get to the next one. Robbie Rock.
Shenanigans.
All right, Robbie Rock, you've got a discussion about Noah Green, the young man who killed a Capitol police officer this week. Also, just happened right down the street from Lizzie as well.
Everything happened in Lizzie's neighborhood. It's going downhill.
Is this truth, lies, or shenanigans?
This is some sad truth. On Friday, April 2nd, the Capitol in DC was the location of another fatal attack, as we know. One officer was killed and another hospitalized after Noah Green rammed his car into a security barrier near the U.S. Capitol building. I know that U.S. Capitol Police Chief Yogananda Pittman was quoted as saying, "It is with profound sadness that I share the news of the passing of Officer William Billy Evans this afternoon from injuries he sustained following an attack on the North Barricade by a lone assailant." So essentially, he rammed the barricade, then he got out with a knife, and he started lunging aggressively towards Capitol officers, where they shot and then he later died in hospital. Now, they've been diving into his social media because this was a 25-year-old young man who was going through a difficult time. And according to the Washington Post, this was a promising football player, but then he was expulsed because of some drugging issues. So he blamed his former roommates and teammates for drugging him with Xanax. And he's reached out to friends saying he was in a really bad situation and needed help. One of the quotes that from his social media that's being passed around that's trending right now is that he was saying, to be honest, these past few years have been tough, and these past few months have been tougher. I've been tried with some of the biggest unimaginable tests in my life. I am currently now unemployed after I left my job, partly due to afflictions, but ultimately in search of a spiritual journey. I consider myself, so when he's talking about Louis Farrakhan, he refers to him as the Messiah, and he considers him his spiritual father. Without his guidance, his word, and his teachings that I've picked up along the way, I would have been unable to continue. So to me, this is just a young man who had a world of opportunities opening up above him, and because of a series of bad choices, saw those opportunities dwindle and disappear, and then dove into someone's radicalized version of Islam, if you will. Louis Farrakhan is not the founder of Islam. That would have been the Prophet Muhammad a few hundred years before that. But Farrakhan absolutely radicalized it in the US, and it became just a banner for people to get behind so that they had a voice. This young man felt that he found a voice, but unfortunately it led him to take grave action. So I want to get reaction from my co-host because, again, this is another tragic loss of life. This is a young man who was in duress, who was in crisis, but unfortunately didn't seem to have anywhere to turn to except for attacking the seat of power. Lizzie, I would love to get your thoughts on this.
I think one, because a lot of people, and I think I've had to check myself in assessing situations like this, when you hear that the suspect had some level of mental illness and they were spiraling down. And the first question is, well, what was the family doing? And I have to remind myself, it's very hard. Young man was an adult. And so it's very hard to have someone committed based on what you perceive is a mental breakdown. It takes a lot. You can't just say, oh, Gianni's crazy, so we're going to throw her in, a mental hospital. That's not how it works. It's a long, tedious process. And so in reading what the family has said this young man was going through, I had to think about, what my reaction would be. But to your point about the angle in which this story is being pitched, I mean, I'm not surprised because we all know this country hates Muslims. This country hates the Nation of Islam. This country, when it's a person of color who has committed a crime or who has been suspected of committed a crime, they are going to dig up every single piece of dirt on them and put it on the front page. That's not to say that it's not valid, that it's not information that we should know. However, we really don't know much about the terrorists that charge the Capitol on January 6th. A lot of them, we don't know their backstory or their criminal history or their mental history or their religious, history or whatever. This is usually something that is afforded to someone who is non-white. Even if you look at the Boulder, Colorado shooter, in that situation, that shooting, it's been 2 weeks, 3 weeks now? 10 people were killed, including a police officer. So initially they were kind of, quiet about his identity and who he was because they thought he was white. And as soon as they realized that his parents are from Syria, I can't remember off the top of my head if he was born in Syria or not, but as soon as they realized that he had a Syrian connection, all bets are off. All bets are off. Oh, he's from the Middle East. He's Muslim. He's this, he's a terrorist. That's what happens when you are a non-white person of color in this country, but especially if you have any ties to being a Muslim to the Nation of Islam. And I mean, Farrakhan, please, that was just like the icing on the cake. That was the icing on the cake. And it's sad because I do think, and again, I'm not making excuses for this young man at all. At all. But it does sound like that he was troubled. And think about how we often afford white individuals in this country who commit these types of acts. The first thing that comes out, he was mentally ill. And we the media and a lot of our citizens here in the States, they give them a pass because they're white and they're mentally ill. Black people aren't afforded that same luxury. We are not afforded that same luxury at all.
So my thoughts are, the first thing that I looked up was I looked up to see what Fox News wrote, and I thought it was interesting. Their headline. So this was their headline: Capitol attack suspect identified as Louis Farrakhan follower Noah Green. Right. That's the first thing they said. Now, as many people know, Louis Farrakhan is very anti-white, sometimes
Anti-white,
anti-Semitic.
He's anti-Semitic.
He's pretty. Matter of fact, little known fact: my mother was part of the Nation of Islam, so she joined the Nation of Islam. And what I found, watching that is, they tend to that particularly in the Nation of Islam, people who have problems, maybe mental illness, problems with drugs, problems with home life or whatever, are drawn to that environment because it's very strict. They have very strict rules, and some people do need some of that structure in their lives, and they're drawn to that. But in addition to that, the Nation of Islam is very accepting of that. But I don't know that they have what's necessary to deal with people who may have the problem. My mother was I would consider, has a mental health issue, and there was no help for her. It was just they'd kind of deal with it. With that being said, um, and I'm kind of going off a little bit on a tangent, but Louis Farrakhan is a pretty divisive person, and so it's not surprising that the first thing that um, Fox News throws up is the fact that Louis Farrakhan is uh, involved, or he's a follower of Louis Farrakhan, because it denigrates the black person who attacked the Capitol and kind of puts it into a different perspective for the white people that attacked the Capitol, right?
Mm.
Because there was a lot of conversation about white people attacking the Capitol, and it's- I just found that was an interesting aspect, that tends to be the case. That's what they do, is they kind of marginalize the situation. I mean, it's a terrible situation. It's a terrible thing that this person did. But it's just that aspect of how race and religion comes into it just kind of bothers me. Let's just focus on
Yeah.
the fact that a Capitol Police officer died and a troubled youth did it. A troubled young man did it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we should be looking at. That's what I believe.
And it's a non sequitur because, as far as I can tell, and I'm not a follower of the Nation of Islam, I'm not a follower of Louis Farrakhan, but as far as I can tell, over the past few months, Louis Farrakhan hasn't really been inciting anyone to do anything.
No, he's
Like,
been
this
like, I
he
mean,
hasn't said anything. This is not the same situation as you have the president of the United States getting on national television telling people to march down to the Capitol. Two totally different situations. But like you said, Fox News is framing it in the same vein. In the same vein. And it's
sorry.
it's ridiculous.
I know me and
But
Lizzie
let's
took
be
up all the
honest, Louis
time. Let me get Gianni and Robbie
Farrakhan,
in there.
Farrakhan is 88 years old now, so I mean, we're not hearing much from him because he doesn't have the energy level that he used to. He's born in 33, so I mean, let's be real about it too.
I feel like the National Guard were the government was on time this time. They had the helicopter, they had the lockdown, they had the National Guard mobilized. Like
point.
everything was
To
on
respond.
point. For a guy with a knife, which I'm not taking anything away from him, but the Boulder, Colorado shooter was at least shot in the leg only. You know what I mean? Like this man, did he? I didn't see it, but I didn't feel like he needed to be killed on site. But I could be, my opinion. Yes,
But let me just say, like the police officers were already there, and like he attacked police officers, and they responded. Whereas in Boulder, he attacked a grocery store, and the police had to come in after the fact. So it's a little bit different in terms of the response. I mean, but in what you're saying, Gianni, where was this heightened level of security on January 6th? Where was this heightened level on January 6th? Where there, because this was just one guy. And again, like you said, I'm not downplaying anything, but there were a lot of kid gloves out there on January 6th. They weren't even equipped to handle anything. Like a lot of those police officers on January 6th weren't even armed, unfortunately.
Let me get your comments, Robbie. Your final comments before I get to these.
No, I really appreciate everybody's comments on this one. I appreciate the comments online also. And you're right. I mean, really, the media needs to get away from trying to put this in a wonderful little package that people will embrace. Okay, so this is what you need to be afraid of because the person who did this belonged to this ideology. Well, no, this is a person who was mentally and emotionally unwell. This is someone who was in crisis and needed help. Let's focus on what the root causes are there. So it's not going to be stimulus packages. It's going to be making sure that, the financial systems that we have in place to keep people employed, to keep people gainfully employed, are in place so that people aren't losing their shirts left, right, and center. We just need to reimagine a lot of the economics of our society, but more specifically, we really need to focus on the mental health aspect of it, because I think that we're failing globally, and the pandemic is just a prolonged isolation of the pandemic is proving that we haven't really focused on mental health enough as a people, and we're seeing it.
I feel like the pandemic brought out the ugly more. Like I feel like it's always been mental health issues in the Black community that weren't spoken about, but the pandemic just is like, whoosh, like it's just forcing it on us. Like, look at it now.
Well,
like, look at all these.
We're a year into it, so I mean, people who weren't well before have now been isolated, and if you're in an echo chamber with your own thoughts, it can turn into a very dangerous situation, especially after it's had a year to ferment.
But also, particularly, like Gianni just said, particularly the mental health of the Black community or non-white people in this country. Because if you pay attention to current events or pop culture news or what's trending, there's a whole, across the country, there's a documentary, there's a whole Free Britney movement, Free Britney Spears movement in this country. People feeling bad based upon the fact that she has some level of mental illness and people think she's being taken advantage of.
We're definitely
right.
Black folks are not afforded that same level of heightened awareness here, that same level of activism here. So if we gonna free Britney, let's free all of the other mentally ill people in this country.
Free Kanye. Free Kanye.
Free Kanye. All right, Chaotic Neutral Podcast says Happy Easter, everybody. Chaotic Neutral Podcast says Happy Easter, everyone.
Happy Easter.
Thank you.
I'm gonna get to these comments really quick. Kevin Daxon said, I knew he was Black when he was shot. Jacqueline Robinson says, based on the Washington Post article, his family tried to help. Conservatives slept with joy when they found out that he was an admirer of Farrakhan. Olivia E. points out he's not anti-white. Disagree, but Jeanette Brown says they also love getting to drag.
Anti-white and anti-Semite.
Yeah.
He's absolutely anti-white.
There's a lot of people debate about that, but he's.
Well, I mean, because
he's
had relationships. He's had relationships with white women, but that doesn't mean he's not anti-white.
Yeah, because he certainly has a lot of anti-white rhetoric. All right, the headline. So Jeanette Brown says they also love getting to drag Farrakhan any chance they get.
They do.
Jacqueline Robinson says, I think this was suicide by cop situation. The young man was in such despair and basically told his brother goodbye.
He did. He did.
So, all right,
did.
that's it
So
for Hot
sad.
Topics. Great job on the Hot Topics. Wonderful Hot Topics.
Shenanigans.
Deep, in-depth, long, deep for our for our party show for our 1 year celebration. So we're gonna have to lighten it up a bit. All right. So we are going to do our game show. Oh, wrong button again. All right, let's do it. Now we're gonna do our game show. I told you, Robbie, I moved my button.
Right?
I knew I was gonna miss one. All right, today's game show is Who Said It? I'm gonna read off a quote and ask you who from the show, the TLS show, said it. It might be a current or past co-host or guest, and this will not be multiple choice. First to say the right answer gets a point. If you get it right, you get a point. First with the most points wins the game. And this is for example, and we're going to see how fast you get this one.
Carlotta Bosley.
Who said it? Find your passion and work it to your advantage. You say it as fast as you can. RB said it already.
Yep.
And that is correct. Carlotta Wall.
This is including host and guest.
Host and guest. Anyone who's been
that's
on the
gonna be
TLS
hard.
show. All right.
Okay.
Are you ready? So we got
Yeah.
6 of them. We're going to go through 6 of them. You ready? Let's go. Fast as you can. I hate male strippers. I think they're the most disgusting people.
Lizzie.
Liz.
Lizzie.
Oh yeah,
That is
Liz
correct,
did say that. That was just
Lizzie.
recently too.
Correct. Lizzie was the fastest.
Ass is disgusting.
That is correct. Lizzie is the correct answer.
Liz.
All right, you ready? Here we go. It's like a Black Hollywood reunion.
I'm gonna say Micah.
Micah
Micah.
is correct.
Dude.
All right, 1 point Lizzie, 1 point Robbie. All right, ready? Who said it? Oh, that's the answer. Okay, that's the answer. Ready? I'd eat the hell out of a KD.
Neo. I was there. Neo.
I'm going with the tie on that
Dude.
one. I think Robbie slightly beat you, but I'm going with the tie on that.
No, you didn't. That's the time. Neo.
All right.
Hey, Katie, if you're watching, hey, Katie, girl, watch yourself.
All right. I'm sorry, Gianni. They have a slight advantage because they've been on some of these shows.
You know, I didn't say it.
All right, next one. Who said it? This man is just a bigot, a racist, a cheat. He has no character.
Neo.
Incorrect.
Me.
Incorrect.
Oh,
Lizzie.
Me?
who's
Incorrect.
Lizzie's guest that came on? Shoot, what's his name?
I knew
Deja
this one
Vu.
would get you guys. I'll give you a couple more seconds. Come on.
Oh
Nobody?
my God,
Alain.
I'm going
Alain Simon.
blank.
Okay, that is incorrect. All of those are incorrect. The person was Delegate Jocelyn Pena Melnick,
Ah.
Oh, wow. I
talking
never
about
would've guessed
Trump. Talking about Trump.
Yep.
Yeah, I
that.
would have
Right,
never.
though. She's right.
I
She's
think-
right.
Yeah, you're definitely right. I think you weren't on that particular show, Lizzie. Yeah, I think you weren't on that show. All right, ready? Who said? You said call your wife and see what she thinks.
Lizzie.
No, Jeff Perlman said that.
Ha! Correct. You got to catch the
Nice.
How did you remember that?
Because he said,
Correct.
"You said call your
Correct,
wife and see
Robbie.
what she
Jeff
thinks." He was
Perlman said that.
talking about your story.
But you know what? Technically, I did say that, but just not.
No, you didn't say it like you
Yes.
said, because you didn't say you said call your wife.
No, but
And
I'm
if
saying
memory
technically, I
serves-
originally said it.
You
I
said
said
the
it to
original
Jeff
statement.
Perlman, but Jeff said it on the show. You're absolutely right.
So
All right.
if
Absolutely
memory serves, that was in Philadelphia, right?
Yeah, we stayed.
Oh
in a
man, that's a
hotel
good
room
memory, Robbie.
Bonus points, man. Bonus points.
I remember
in a
that.
hotel
I
room
remember that.
in Philadelphia.
All right, here we
That
go.
was my favorite.
Who said it? This is called consequences, baby. I'm done with Goya.
Zee!
Stop him.
Z.
Correct. Correct. All right. That is actually the last question, and you guys are tied. Oh man, I don't even know how to break the tie at this point. All right, Johnny, who won? Who you saying is the winner today?
You guys always make me choose.
We're gonna go with
loves
Lizzie.
Eeny, meeny,
Yeah,
miny, mo.
Robbie won the last
So-
tie. Robbie rocked.
Yeah, I got the
Liz.
default win last time. I'm happy to give it to Liz. Happy to
Lizzie,
share the
good
win
job,
with Liz.
Lizzie. Good job, Lizzie. Looks like a bunch of people had Had a bunch of them. Let's see. No, people didn't get them right online. All right, game show's out. All right, let's get some shout outs in. All right, let's start off with Lizzie today.
Ooh, shout out to the Washington Nationals who have yet to play a game in this new 2021 baseball season because they got the Rona. They got the Rona on the team. So the baseball season started last Thursday, April 1st, and their game was canceled on April 1st. Canceled on Saturday, canceled today. So hopefully we'll have a game tomorrow. They can start their season tomorrow. So far, 4 players have tested positive. 3 other players are in quarantine. They're doing contact tracing. So hopefully we can start this season in DC tomorrow. Love you, Nats. Get healthy. Quarantine. 6 feet.
Robbie Rock.
Special shout out to Mike and Jeanette, our super fans, for joining us. It was just such a treat to put a face and a voice to just those wonderful quips and insights that are shared. A special thank you to all of our audience members who have participated. I know Sherry Blaine Priest, for example, is someone who's very actively involved. Kevin Thaxton, Mike Wolf.
Yeah, we tried to get Sherry on. Sherry said she's camera shy. She was going to be one of our other super fans.
Oh, well then we'll do like a radio spot where we can just bring in
that's right.
One image.
All right, Johnny Storm.
Shout out to my co-host, the beautiful Olivia E. from Heaven, and you guys should tune in Fridays at 6:30 on Instagram for Unscripted.
You guys are funny. All right, my shout out is to Jam, East, D, Dr. D, Proven, Dr. J, Katie did, Olivia E, Jose, and Angela Cherie from the Ever Evolving Podcast, and of course the wonderful crew, Yanni, Lizzie, and Rob, who have all co-hosted with me at one time or another. I appreciate you all for what you've given the show, and I appreciate you deeply. Appreciate you guys. And hey, if you want to shout out, get on our whole social media pages. We may just shout you out live. That's it. Shout out. Buttons would work today. All right.
Shout out to some new buttons for Neo.
You know what I'm saying?
New buttons for Neo.
All right, and that's all the time we have for today. I'd like to thank you all for joining us. We hope that maybe you learned something, gained a new perspective, even got some things off your chest. Please like, follow, subscribe at TLSLiveShow. Don't forget to share it out. Tomorrow, check out YouTube for clips of your favorite moments from today's show, TLSshow.com, or search Truth Lies Shenanigans. Our next live show is on Wednesday, April 7th, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And Yanni, Storm, and Olivia go unscripted Friday night, 6:30 p.m. on Instagram. Our winner is Liz E. She gets to close out our birthday show. So Lizzie closes out.
Happy birthday to us again. We deserve it. We are cool. We've been here for a year. Hopefully we are going to be bigger and better, over the course of the next year. Also, give me some props because this is going to be a very difficult week. I still have 1,001 papers to grade. I have a gazillion meetings this week, some projects going on, and I have not started on any of them. So send me all good vibes. Somebody send me a shrimp basket, please. I'm hungry. I'm hungry.
All right, this is also our 100th show, by the way. I just want to point that out. So, birthday and 100th show. So, we're killing it. Great job, guys. Love working with you. I will see you guys next time.
Shenanigans.